Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, and welcome to our beef brunch this morning. We're missing a couple people today, but it is a busy time of year for us. Just working with producers, going to meetings, and just several events that we have coming up. So just for our updates, I'll get started. I'll turn it over to you, Vince.
Thank you, Brittany, and it's a pleasure to be on the biweekly Beef Brunch News updates. We're in our traditionally and historical dry period of the month. October is typically our driest month of the year, so there's some anticipated showers with the frontal passage at the end of the week. So I know there's a number of people that are chomping at the bit to plant some winter grazing pastures, ryegrass, and maybe some wheat on some more hilly type ground, and to get some clovers planted. Some have already planted, and I know a few people that have planted. It's 2 to 3 weeks now, and got some stands emerging. We've been harping on this all year long about armyworm issues. So those that I've had conversations with regarding emerging stands, and we're going to still be 90, 91, 92 degrees today. And that's anticipated through the balance of the week until that front passes on Thursday or Friday, with those rain chances and temperatures dropping into the 80s. So the real kicker with the armyworm situation is, as a cow, and from my standpoint as a cow-calf producer and been planting ryegrass for more than 30 years now, I always wait for a season change. Get that temperature to drop below 58 degrees, around 57, 58 degrees. I think that's the most optimum timing as far as temperature is concerned and weather conditions. And, it is a cool season crop. So there are some temperature relations to how well that crop's going to do and how well it's going to start. So we need to keep that in mind. That 58 degrees at night is a magic number that I've always learned to be, detrimental to the fall armyworm. Where they self-destruct themselves with rainfall and a sharp temperature drop. So we always look for that to happen to make those planting decisions. However, there are a lot of seed beds prepared right now, waiting on planting. But give it some time. It's still a little warm. Through the month of October is okay. Visiting with a client here recently, and they asked about, how far into November could I go? I mean, they were thinking about sprigging some Bermuda hybrid into newly worked soils that they're reforming a pasture. And, you get into November, it's getting a little late to plant ryegrass. They want to plant the Bermuda, but our nighttime temperatures are not conducive to get a lot of growth out of that before we get some frost or colder temperatures. So you just got to be mindful. Our warm season grasses will start shutting down as we start to get warmer at night, cooler at night, should I say. So we've seen the last stretch of some hay being made in our area. Ryegrass is a big thing right now. Fall calving is underway. We talked about it on the last session, and Tripp mentioned that to have all your equipment ready for calving issues. If you got to help, and assist some birth at some point in time, during the calving season. So still a lot of mosquitoes. See cattle bunched up in the morning. That's a direct correlation to them fighting off mosquitoes at night. So hopefully we get some changing weather, and especially changing weather that steers these storms that are getting in the Gulf here that they're talking about at the end of the week and possibly next week. But I watched couple of different broadcasts this morning, or weather channels, that they all kind of have the same scenario at hand, that we can have some drier weather pushing down, or some frontal passages that's going to keep steering those storms out to the Atlantic, or keep them east of us. So that's a good thing, and we certainly want to send our best wishes and prayers to the people along the East Coast. I've talked to a couple of fellow breeders that I deal with in the breed. I breed Brayford cattle, and there's one in Georgia in particular. They big timber growers, and they lost half of their timber stand, which is a big part of their income. Lost some equipment sheds and some of their crop storage facilities were damaged from the rains and the wind. So, our best wishes go out to those folks on the East Coast and into the Carolinas where they had such a flooding and mudslide issue. So, it's heartfelt because here in South Louisiana, we've never experienced anything like they're experiencing just because of their topography. But it's got to be a terrible situation for those folks. So I'll close with that. Again, it's going to be bull time. There's a lot of bull sales coming up. If you need to replace some bulls, there are several special sales. I know I've received several catalogs in the mail. Angus and Brangus and several Hereford sales coming up. So get your dollars ready and maybe sell a few calves and replace an old bull that you need to get out of the way and get some fresh genetics in your herd. So it's going to be time to travel a little bit. We got livestock show season coming up. I know we're all looking forward to State Fair and helping out there and kind of seeing what all the kiddos have to exhibit this fall coming up. So good luck with the fall ryegrass and wheat planting season for those that are geared up for that and get that hay finalized. It's time to do that because we're going to start losing growth at night, like I mentioned earlier. So that's all I have, Brittany.
Hey, thanks, Vince. And just to echo a few things that you said, of course, the devastation and the flooding that we've seen just over there in like East Tennessee and North Carolina and whatnot. It's not like anything I've seen before. And I think, it was very worst case scenario. I don't think anybody there thought, things would happen the way they did. And as things starts to dry up over there and people are really surveying the damage, we of course wish them the best in their recovery. It's gonna take a long time for that. So we just, we wish the best for them in that area as well. But yes, just like Vince said as well, there's a lot of people I've seen over the past couple weeks that are just getting in that last cutting of hay. And either they are, getting in that last cutting of hay, or they just, maybe decided that with the cost of what it is to produce the hay and having such a large supply of hay that we've seen this year, may not be worth it to go ahead and make that last cutting. So I've seen some people that are shredding some pastures as well. I just, thankfully where I live on a road where I have, neighbors and several people that have pastures and cattle and whatnot. So I tend to pay attention to what they're doing on my drive to work every day. And yesterday my neighbor was going and he was shredding his pasture. So just kind of getting those things as we're transitioning into fall and that cooler season. We're still, I believe today is the last day for the entries for the state hay contest. To get those submitted. I think we had some good participation with that last year. So hopefully we've gotten, I know we've all done, several hay samples. I'm always encouraging people to test your hay to really see what, the quality is that you have there. Are those inputs that you are putting in, are they making a difference? Things like that. It's really good to see, what the nutritive quality of your hay is there. And as Vince said, over a few weeks ago, of course, we did find some armyworms out in both St. Landry and Evangeline Parish, and it's pretty common across the state that we are hearing of those armyworm just infestations. So again, everyone just be mindful of that. Be scouting for those armyworms. Look for the signs. If you have some birds, the way that the grass will look. Because they can take out a field pretty fast, and they can also go after that newly planted ryegrass that you have. So after you spent the time and energy and the money to plant that ryegrass, you don't want to lose it to something like that. That can be prevented, that you can get ahead of. We do have several events coming up that I'll go over at the end after Tripp's going to give our market report for us. I did want to just mention, not this past Friday, the Friday before, I had gone to the Gray Ranch where they had a pasture walk over in Vinton, Louisiana. Even just from living in the Lake Charles area where I was before I came here, Yeah, I had never been to the Gray Ranch. Of course, I'd always heard of it. But it was very cool to see their operation between just the horses that they have, and their breeding program that they have there, and then their cattle operation. I believe one of the pastures we were looking at, they said they had 750 pairs in that pasture. The land was beautiful. And then just kind of them telling us, about the land that they have, and then down near the coast, over in the Johnson Bayou area, how they sometimes have had to cross, or I guess in the past, not so much anymore, they've crossed, cattle across the intercoastal and different things like that. So you always hear about those things, but it was very cool to see and to get to experience that. I know Tripp and I talked about it the other day, and he wished that he could have gone, but I know he had a lot going on that week and he couldn't make it. So that was hosted by the Louisiana Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, and they'll do those pasture walks every now and then. So that was something cool to see. Vince, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I failed to mention, I've had some requests and concerns about, making some herbicide applications late season as we are now. And there's really no benefit to doing that, because everything is hardened off and become, at a point where, you're not going to get much benefit out of any kind of herbicide application for weed control. What you want to be mindful for is some pre-emerge options, moving into the fall. Because I suspect we're going to have a lot of volunteer ryegrass in some of our hay ground, because of the way the ryegrass came off last year, even in places where, in early spring this year in 23, I'm sorry, places that you normally would not ever see ryegrass. We had a lot of volunteer ryegrass, and I don't know if the association, from the drought or something occurred with our soils. So be prepared with some of the control options as some pre-emerge treatments as we move into November, December, to make those applications and be scouting for that volunteer ryegrass. That's going to be the thing that's going to be the most cumbersome to getting your first cutting of warm season hay off next spring. And also, if you've got barnyard grass issues and other, early spring season grass issues that in your Bermuda fields, that we have some pre-emerge control options for that to get a jump start on it, because we always get behind the 8 ball and we roll around into May and June, and it's a lot of times it's too late, and there's too much of a population to get it in control. So if you're wanting to get a jump start, see one of your local agents, or reach out to one of us, and we'll help you consider some options for that.
Yes, that is something to keep in mind. And as Vince and I yesterday were recording the video of the presentation that we were supposed to give back at the Dean Lee Field Day that was canceled, we did talk a lot about herbicide and insecticides and applying those, and pre-emergence was definitely something that we talked about there. So thanks for chiming in and adding that. Now I will turn it over to Tripp to give our update for North Louisiana and our market report.
Thank you very much, Brittany and Vince. Those are wonderful reports, as always, from y'all. After hearing y'all's two reports, there's not a lot I can add as far as the going-ons in Northeast Louisiana, because y'all touched on a lot of the things that are happening up here as well. Many of our farmers are wrapping up grain harvest right now. Corn's pretty well out of the field. Soybeans are quickly coming out as they can get to them. A lot of cotton has begun coming out as well. A lot of ground's getting rode back up and getting ready for next year. So as their harvest and preparations for next year finish up, a lot of the focus will shift into their cattle operations. Over here in the hill country, there's a lot of people already eyeing ryegrass, getting started planting ryegrass. I'd like to send the same cautions that Vince did, and I actually had a little bit of a story on that. Last week, I got called up to the Spearsville area to look at a guy. He had planted some wheat for wildlife purposes, but it was planted next to some hay ground, and he planted way early. He had a good stand. He called me up there and said, "Hey, I think I got something done got into my wheat." So I went up there, and it took about 15 minutes crawling around the gentleman's field to find evidence that there was ever wheat out there to start with. The army worms had moved into his wheat pasture. He had planted next to a hay pasture and eaten it to the ground. The combination of pressure from the army worms and hogs put him out of the wheat business for the year. Fortunately for him, though, there's ample time to replant coming into the year. Vince mentioned that our nighttime temps needed to get down just a little bit into the upper 50s. Looking at Monday, in North Louisiana, we're going to start seeing some of those temperatures. I know that there's already been some grass planted for the year, but really coming into next week, the weather is starting to get favorable to us. I'd like to see a little bit more moisture in the ground before you got a lot of money invested in there. But temperature-wise, climate-wise, we're getting into the right time of year to start planting our winter grasses. Moving on to our market report. Let's see here. I'm going to do my best to give you a good market report. Lee says this week we have a medium level in the confidence in his data. He is satisfied with the amount of data he has received for this market report. So on our 5 and 6 weight steers, the low was 202, the high was 275. That is a 42% increase over our last market report that we gave, and that appears to be the lone bright spot in our market report. We saw some losses in the remainder of our categories. Some of them were pretty significant, while the majority of them were very minor. On our 5 to 6 weight heifers, we saw a 0.68% decrease. The lows were $1.95, the highs $2.40. Guys, that's still good money on that class of heifers, especially with us moving into the fall run for the year. Cull cows is where we saw by far the greatest decline. Our low on cull cows for this report is $1, and the high is $1.27, which marks a 10% decrease. I believe that this is just evidenced by the amount of beef that we're seeing moving into the supply chain right now. Cull bulls had a similar experience, falling to $1.22 and $1.59, representing a 5.7% decrease on our last market report. That wasn't as eloquent as Mr. Faulk typically provides for us, but that was the market report for the 2-week period. And that is pretty well it for me.
Okay, thanks, Trip. And I know we did kind of say a lot, but it's we have very similar conditions, I think, right now, just across the state. So we're just doing our best, to get that word out to our producers. And of course, you did a great job with Lee and with Lee not here and taking over the market report.
Hey, I do want to add one thing. Vince mentioned applying herbicides this time, or excuse me, applying pesticides this time of year to gain control on armyworms. There's a lot of guys trying to finish out their last cutting of hay, and I've had the discussion about 3 times in the past week and a half as to whether or not it's worth protecting. Right now, you're getting very limited growth. We have reached the time of year where you're probably better off to go ahead and harvest that in some manner and just take it away from the army worms and spray anything. I was talking to a guy, he had some weed issues in the field, and he asked me what the best thing to kill it was, and I told him frost. So we're about to get to that time of year. So things are hardened up and shutting down, and our herbicides are not effective, or limited in their effectiveness. So oftentimes you're throwing good money after bad right now with it. That was it. I promise I'm done now.
No, it's okay. It's good. I'm glad that y'all, if you have something else that you said to say that you might have forgotten earlier, just do that little hand raise and let me know. So, and just to kind of end, I know normally when we do these, Dr. Edwards will let y'all know about the events that we have coming up, and those will also be in the description on the YouTube video. So let's see, coming up. We are getting ready to start the Beef Brunch educational series, which is our fall 2024 webinars. The topic for that is going to be winter supplementation strategies. So the first one for that is coming up on, let's see, is this October 8th, looks like. So October 8th is going to be our first one. That topic's going to be how much hay do my cows need? Next one will be October 15th, and then the last one will be October 22nd. So you'll hear from Dr. Ashley Edwards, Abigail Sarton, who's our agent, livestock agent down in Vermilion Parish. And then for some, just the mineral nutrition aspect, we'll hear from Dr. Marcelo Vitavato, who's our beef cattle nutritionist over at Dean Lee and the Iberia Research Stations. Also, we have the artificial insemination school being held at Dean Lee. I believe Dr. Edwards did say that class is full, but that's going to be taking place from October 9th through the 11th over at Dean Lee. And each year we have that in the fall at Dean Lee, and then up at the Hill Farm, there's one in the spring. I believe it's usually in April. So if you're in, north or south part of the state, we do have opportunities for both of those each year. We have a couple of bull breeding soundness exam days coming up in different parts of the state. So October 15th, DeSoto Parish is hosting theirs. Let's see. Oh, the location, it's in Grand Cane. I believe it's at the Branch Ranch. Not sure. The address is on here though, and it'll be in the description as well. For that, if you do need to make an appointment for that, so please contact Josh Salley if you're interested in that and you're in that part of the state. Out in my area here in Opelousas, we'll be having our bull breeding soundness exams on October 24th, which will be at Dominique Stockyard in Opelousas. And you can contact either me to get scheduled for that or Lanie Richard, who's in the Lafayette Parish there. Also, we have the Pregnancy Determination Clinic, which is up at the Hill Farm, October 15th and 16th. Those are each a one-day class, just being offered, twice. I believe those are full too. I'm not positive, but I believe those were about full as well. And those happen once a year in October up at the Hill Farm. And then lastly, we have on here is Red River Parish is having a cattlemen's meeting Thursday, October 24th at the Red River Livestock Auction Barn. And you just need to RSVP to Josh Salley by October 14th if y'all are interested in attending that meeting. So thank y'all for joining us today. I think, we did a great job considering we were down, two of our regular folks, but hopefully we made them proud. So thank y'all for joining us this morning, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.